What's wrong with certifiable fun? Hello, welcome to my channel, another bibliophile reads. My name is Greg, and for the past few weeks, I've been on sort of a thematic kick. I made a video called 5 of the Hardest Books I've Ever Read, talking about 5 difficult books. I will leave a link in the description of this video if you want to check out that video. And that got me to thinking about 5 of the hardest books I haven't read but want to. Another link in the description of this video. But after talking 2 videos about difficult books, I decided why not give easy books their say? Because sometimes you don't want to read a hard book. You want to read an easy book. So I did 5 of the easiest books that I have ever read. And in that video, I mentioned I was deliberately excluding science fiction because I wanted to do a video dedicated exclusively to easy science fiction books. Now that did not come out of the blue of those 3 videos. Back in I believe it was the spring or summer of 2025, I did a video called 20 Essential Science Fiction Books that I think everyone should read. Well, most people found the list at least useful or agreed with it, but some people had some beefs with some of my choices. Of course, people are going to beef about a 20 list book of essentials. But one comment sort of got me. I didn't go look it up, but someone mentioned that none of my 20 science fiction books were fun. Now, describing a fun book is again kind of hard. What makes a book fun to one reader may not make a book fun to a different reader. But I decided it was time to take up the mantle and show that commenter on my video that yes, sometimes I do read, let's put it in air quotes, fun science fiction books. So this is my 5 easiest science fiction books that I have read that are certifiably fun. I will present my 5 science fiction books in publication order, so these books are not ranked. I will also start off with a brief author bio. Harry Harrison, 1925 to 2012, American science fiction writer known for fast-paced idea stories with a streak of satire. Best known for the Stainless Steel Rat series and Make Room, basis for the Soylent Green movie. Good. He has often blended adventure with ecological and social themes. Now, I could have picked The Stainless Steel Rat as my easy science fiction book from Harry Harrison, but I've gone a slightly different path. Deathworld, published in 1960. Professional gambler Jason Dealt is recruited by settlers of Pyrus, a planet where everything is lethally hostile. The humans survive only through consistent intelligence and violence. Dealt begins to suspect that the planet itself is reacting to human aggression. I first read this novel when I was 13, maybe 14. I was away at a summer camp, and one of the other fellows lent me this book, Deathworld, and I was absolutely entranced. I was captivated. As I said, this is about the gambler Jason who goes to a world where every single life form is lethal. Every animal attacks humans on sight. Even the plants are deadly. You cannot walk outside on the grass without shoes because the grass has poisonous barbs that will dig into your heel and kill you. And when Jason gets to this planet, he's assigned to the children's training room because children, when they're born on this planet of Pyrus, are immediately taught to kill anything that moves that is not a human being. And he has to go through this training with the children until he learns how to use their weapons and kill everything. But once he gets out into the wild and starts meeting the dangerous environment, he begins to suspect that something is not right on this planet. And he goes to investigate. And I will leave it at there. My 14, 13-year-old self absolutely loved this book. I reread it in my late 40s, and I absolutely love this book. It is less than 150 pages, if I'm not mistaken. I don't actually have a physical copy to show you. And once you finish that book, well, there are more Deathworlds that you can pick up. There is Deathworld 2 and Deathworld 3. Now, when I was a teenager, I'm pretty sure that I read Deathworld 2. It does not stand out in my memory. I know I have not read Deathworld 3. I do plan to read Deathworld 2 and Deathworld 3 sometime. But Deathworld 1, as I said, is a certifiably fun book. Go check it out. Roger Zelazny, 1937 to 1995, American writer celebrating for blending myth, fantasy, and science fiction. A major new wave figure, he won multiple Hugo and Nebula awards. His prose is lean, witty, and often mythologically rich. I may be stretching things in my choice for the next fun novel. If you remember way back when, in the 70s and 80s, when I first started reading science fiction, fantasy and science fiction were joined at the hip. They were a married couple. Somewhere along the way, that couple kind of divorced, or at least legally separated, and fantasy and science fiction are totally different genres. But back in the day, they were joined at the hip, and if you were a science fiction writer, you could delve in fantasy, and if you wrote some fantasy, you could delve into some science fiction. The genres were blurred, and the novel that I am picking as certifiably fun is Nine Princes in Amber by Roger Zelazny, published in 1970. The novel is narrated by Corwin. He is a man who awakes in a hospital with amnesia. He was in a car wreck or something like that, but he has no idea who he is, where he is from. But he knows or learns rather quickly that he's very different from other people. He has the ability to, let's just say, shift out of reality and from one world to another world. Some of these worlds are very close to the world he's been in. Some of them are not. And he knows he's on a mission. He knows there is something in his mind that he has to discover the truth about. And he goes to investigate who he is and where he is from. And this starts off a series of his 5 great science fiction novels. Now, again, I am calling some science fiction. Some people, some purists, may say they are fantasy. But as I said, Roger Zelazny was blending genres. And Nine Princes of Amber kicks off a great series. You will have so much fun reading these books. I first read them in high school. I was probably 15 or 16. I had a best friend named Victor, and we both started reading these books at the same time, and we'd go to school and we'd say where we are in the story. And there was a race between Victor and myself to finish the series. And one weekend I invited Victor over to my house. I was reading the last book, The Courts of Chaos. It was on my desk in my room, or so I think. But that book disappeared because Victor wasn't on The Courts of Chaos yet. He was a book behind. I eventually could not find my copy and had to purchase a second copy of the book. I always suspected that Victor stole my copy of The Courts of Chaos because he wanted to finish the series first. Victor, on the off chance that you are watching this video, confess. Did you steal my Courts of Chaos book? Well, that really doesn't matter. What matters is that if you pick up the Nine Princes of Amber, I'm pretty sure that you will read the rest of the series. And I listened to the audiobook series about 15 years ago and really enjoyed my second reading. Now, I was aware that later on, Roger Zelazny wrote a second series to the Nine Princes of Amber. I have not read the second series, but I keep telling myself, reread the series and then read the second series. Most people say the second series isn't as good as the first, but if you read Nine Princes of Amber, you will have a blast and you will read the next 5 books, guaranteed. Philip Jose Farmer, 1918 to 2009, American author known for bold, sometimes controversial ideas about identity, sexuality, and religion. He often reworked literary and historical figures into a science fiction setting. To Your Scattered Bodies Go, 1971. All humans who ever lived are resurrected along a mysterious, seemingly endless river. Sir Richard Burton, the explorer, tries to understand who created this world and why. The novel blends adventure with philosophical speculation about morality, free will, and the possibility of an engineered afterlife. I first read this book in the early aughts when I was on a vacation in Las Vegas. I was reading this book while sitting at the poolside for the most part. As I said, this is about Richard Burton, the explorer, the not quite discoverer of the source of the river Nile. He dies and he wakes up in this world. He is 25 years old and he's along a river. Along this river are food canisters that get magically filled every day. And he is surrounded by everyone who has ever lived throughout human history. He meets up with a woman named Alice. She was the inspiration for Lewis Carroll's Alice in Wonderland. He also meets a Neanderthal man, or something close to that. He also meets up with Hermann Göring. And Hermann Göring, again, is 25. Everyone in the world is 25, unless you died before the age of 25. In that case, you're born at the age you died. Now, if you're born really young, I forget the cutoff. I think it's you have to have lived at least 5 years, something along those lines. I don't remember exactly. If you died before then, you don't get reborn. But why is this world existed? It's some bizarre afterlife. And Richard Burton decides to go exploring. He hears rumors about the source of this river. And of course, Richard Burton loves exploring sources of rivers. And he goes on this wild adventure. And he meets a lot of historical characters. Some of them may have been fictional. There is a hint that he meets up with Odysseus from the Iliad and the Odyssey. Or maybe not. There are also strange beings in control of this river world, and Richard Burton wants to find out who they are. What an amazing adventure story. I started rereading Riverworld in 2022 or 2023 as a buddy read with Gavin from Genre Books. And we continued on beyond Riverworld because Riverworld is, of course, a series. And we read the initial series. I think there are 4 books. I will leave some notes in the description of this video. But all of these books are really fascinating. The second book is also pretty good, but it does not feature Richard Burton. It features Samuel Clemens, more famously known as his pseudonym Mark Twain. So you get a lot of these historical figures in this fictional section, but what an amazing adventure. I don't think you will regret starting with To Your Scattered Bodies Go. It was a lot of fun to read. Jack L. Chalker, 1944 to 2005, American science fiction writer known for high-concept series exploring identity, transformation, and alien ecologies. His work often features characters physically or psychologically altered by strange environments. Midnight at the Well of Souls, 1977. I first read this novel when I was in high school, 16, 15, somewhere around that age, and then I reread it in my late 40s. Captain Nathan Brazil investigates a scientist's murder that leads to the Well World, a planet divided into zones, each with different species and life forms and physical laws. Individuals entering the world are transformed into a new life form. The mystery expands into a cosmic secret about the control system governing reality itself. Now, this is just such a bizarre story. As I said, a space captain named Nathan Brazil is transporting some high paying guests to a different world, but is waylaid to investigate this murder that leads him to the Well World. And everyone on the ship is taken prisoner and sent down to the Well World. And there's a transformation process where each member of the ship that Nathan Brazil had is made into a new life form. On this planet, this Well World, there is a life form of every known intelligent species in the universe. And it is a roll of the dice what species you will become when you are sent down to the Well World. One character, a very nasty and unpleasant character, becomes a giant insect. Another character becomes a plant based life form. But oddly enough, Nathan Brazil keeps his own form. How peculiar. Now, Nathan Brazil is going to get his own transformation later on in the book, but that has nothing to do with the Well World. And his transformation made one of the strangest sex scenes a teenager ever encountered. Not really graphic sex, but kind of strange when you're a teenager. I more or less chuckled at it when I was in my late 40s rereading it. But this is a grand adventure story. And you don't have to stop at the Well World because Jack Chalker wrote some sequels. Now, these two here feature a different character going to the Well World, and he brings back Nathan Brazil in this novel, The Return of Nathan Brazil. How obvious from the title. And it concludes with this one, Twilight at the Well of Souls. I still remember the final scene of this book. I read it after college, so sometime in my early 20s for the rest of the series, but Midnight at the Well of Souls. Great adventure story. I think most people would have a heck of a lot of fun reading this. Again, this is not great literature. This is just entertainment. Adrian Tchaikovsky, born in 1972, British author known for inventive, large-scale speculative fiction, like Children of Time. He excels at alien perspectives, evolutionary ideas, and complex interstellar settings. And the book that I am picking is Shards of the Earth, published in 2021. It is the first volume in a trilogy known as the Architect series. The other books in this series are Eyes of the World and Lords of Uncreation, published between 2022 and 2024. In this story, in a universe once devastated by godlike aliens, architects who reshape planets into grotesque art, humanity survives uneasily. Idris, genetically altered to communicate with the architects, joins a ragtag salvage crew. When signs of the architects' return appear, the crew appears entangled in a looming interstellar crisis. Now, I listened to the audiobooks for this trilogy, and when I started up the Shards of the Earth and the story got going, I stopped listening. I felt absolutely certain that I had picked up a book in the middle of a series, and I went back to Audible and checked the website and confirmed that yes, Shards of the Earth is the first book in a trilogy. It is not part of another series. Because I thought that maybe this is the second part of a series, but it's not. This story starts at the end of a story that is not told. And a little confusing at first, but it does begin to make sense. And as I said, the main character is sort of Idris. He is a genetically altered being who could communicate with these alien architects. Now, these architects are vastly superior aliens who approach habitable worlds and basically turn them into this crystalline form of art. But this form of art absolutely destroys every life form on the planet. So obviously, human beings don't like the architects. But then Idris is joined this salvage crew on this ship, and they are sent to basically take back another salvage spaceship. But then there are signs that the architects are returning. And this turns into one magnificent adventure story. Shards of the Earth, as I said, is the first part of a trilogy, but really, it's really the first third of a very long novel. I don't think you can pick up the second parts of the books. Those are Eyes of the Void, or the third, Lords of Uncreation, and just read them independently. This is one long novel told in 3 volumes. But what a grand adventure. Like good adventure stories, the reader gets engaged with the characters, and Tchaikovsky presents some really rather amusing and interesting characters. There is the physically disabled woman who repairs the ship. There is a crab-like being who looks like a big crab. And there are some other interesting aliens. Sorry for that coughing fit. Shards of the Earth kicks off this great space opera. You will really enjoy all the characters and all the world bringing that Tchaikovsky brings to this story. A lot of fun. And those are my 5 fun science fiction picks. In reality, there's a lot more than 5 books mentioned in this video, because all of my initial 5 are trilogies or series. Go check out these books. Again, these are not essential science fiction readings. These are books to read when you just want to be entertained and not worry too much. Have fun reading them. Thank you for watching, and keep on reading.